I don't know about you guys, but man, there are a lot of things that I absolutely love about Denver, but there's a few other things that people just don't realize until it's too late, until they've already moved out here to the Mile High City. In this video today, I'm gonna be sharing with you guys 3 of the harshest truths about living in Denver today. Really excited to share this one with you guys. Stay tuned. All right, so as I said, guys, today's gonna be all about 3 harsh truths about living in the Mile High City, Denver, Colorado. You know, this video is not gonna be all doom and gloom. There's actually a brighter side to some of these points I'm gonna be sharing with you, especially the third one, so make sure you stick around for that. But before we get started, all that info down below, feel free to reach out. I'm a licensed realtor, but more importantly, I'm a Colorado and Denver native of over 40 years. I love sharing everything there is to know about the Mile High City, and I'd love to do the same for you. So feel free to reach out, even if you're not seriously considering moving in the near future, and we can chat. Phone, email, text, or look me up on social media. But let's go ahead and get started talking now on my first of 3 points about what are the harsh realities of living here in Denver. And number 1 is gonna be the wildfire smoke season. So this is something a lot of people don't realize and definitely has become quite a harsh reality going into kind of where the world is these days. You know, the thing that's interesting about wildfires is, yes, we have a ton of wildfires right here in Colorado, but what can affect the quality of life for a lot of Denver residents isn't even the fires locally. A lot of them are actually coming from other states or, in some cases, other countries. For example, just north of us in Canada, there's a lot of fires in the British Columbia area that, even though they're thousands of miles away, do still affect our air quality here in Denver. You know, I've done past videos on air quality specifically, and there's even been statistics where we've been ranked in the top 10 worst air qualities in the world at times. But that's a little bit on the one extreme of doom and gloom. What I really want to talk about today and share with you guys, if you're not that familiar with wildfire season, is that it really isn't just in the summer anymore. Yes, that does tend to be when we see the most fires, but really 12 months out of the year, you can find fires now in Colorado, and that's affecting our insurance rates as well as just the concern about where to or maybe where not to live within the state. As you can see today, I'm actually up at my cabin in Grand Lake, and we had a very massive fire a few years back known as the East Troublesome Fire. And in a lot of parts of Colorado, one of the reasons for this high level of fire danger, about a decade ago, we were infested with pine beetles, which are these very tiny little beetles that basically get inside trees and eat them from the inside out. And these trees eventually completely die from the pine beetles and become incredibly at a high risk of catching fire and burning. So there's a lot of areas like right here in Grand Lake where a ton of these trees were very close to homes and just affecting everybody's day-to-day activities. So when the East Troublesome Fire happened, this entire area was shut down and it was quite scary. We weren't sure if we were going to have our cabin after a few days. Nobody could even tell us if it was standing or if it had burned. So firsthand experience about just truly how crazy these wildfires can be. One of the things that locals are always the most kind of in tune with as ski season comes to an end is just what our snowpack was for the year, and if we got enough to really have a strong spring runoff and keep enough water and moisture in the high country to help eliminate or at least minimize the fire danger. You know, even in great snow years though, we are still seeing high fire danger towards the end of summer, so that's not really going to be the end-all be-all for whether or not we're going to have wildfires in Colorado, but something at least just to have another reason for why we're always pushing for as much snow as possible during the ski season. Before moving on, the last thing I just want to share for any of my viewers that are maybe coming from states that are coastal or closer to sea level, just also be aware that when you come out to Colorado, not only is the altitude, the elevation potentially going to affect you. We are just in Denver at Mile High, 5,280 feet, and where I'm at right now up in Grand Lake, we're at about 9,000 feet, 9,500 feet in certain areas. So that is definitely going to take a toll on your body just when it comes to breathing and how you're feeling. Combine that with days where we have a high level of smoke and fire danger, it makes it for a lot of people where they can't even go outside and you really are stuck inside for a day or in some cases maybe even a few days or a week while this bad air quality from the wildfires passes through and we get back to that clean Colorado air that we're so spoiled and used to most of the time. Okay, so the second truth that I want to share with you that can be quite harsh at times is just about the economy and more specifically, what kind of job opportunities exist here in Denver. So whether or not you guys know this, my family background, my parents, my uncle, my aunts, I have a lot of cousins. A ton of my family is in the oil and gas industry. And in Denver, that actually used to be one of the largest hubs for this up until about 15 years ago. Before that, though, I mean, majority of some of the biggest oil and gas companies in the world had some of their headquarters or at least some major offices here in Denver. And as the world changes and different industries become more or less popular, we really saw that affect us and my entire family about a decade, maybe 15 years ago, when a lot of these jobs that used to be in Denver really dried up and they almost all were really kind of pushed out to Houston and other areas outside of Colorado. So just a little personal story of how the job market here in Denver can be quite kind of cyclical or up or down, depending on what industry you're in. And a lot of that is tied to environmental and just energy related businesses. There's obviously also a ton of tech startups in Denver, especially up in that Broomfield going into the Boulder part of Denver. So if you're looking for job opportunities with tech, there's definitely still quite a few here. But the thing that I think is really interesting in just thinking fast forward 10 years into the future is just where are we going to be at that point? You know, how many jobs are going to be 100% remote? And is this even going to be as big of a deal for most people, you know, maybe in 10 or 15 years? I personally think that tech will get to the point where it really doesn't matter where somebody lives. And that could be a great reason why a beautiful state like Colorado and Denver specifically as the city are great options just for people that want to have that balance of a healthy, active lifestyle, but also being able to enjoy where they live. Yeah, there are some benefits, but also some costs to that. Literally, when you live in a place that's so beautiful and enjoyable to be in, the cost of real estate tends to be a bit higher. So you gotta expect and plan for that a little bit. But overall, I just want to make the point that one harsh reality in Denver is that our job opportunities really do vary significantly from presidential season to the next for just what's really in or out at the moment. For example, environmental related topics where if it's a Republican in office, we're seeing a lot more oil and gas businesses and job opportunities here. If it's somebody on the Democratic side, we're seeing a lot less of that, but maybe more when it comes to green energy and some other environmental related positions and jobs available. So it really does affect Denver, I think, more than other cities, and Colorado for other states than other parts of the country. All right, and then my third and final harsh reality about moving to Denver, Colorado. I know this was not the most exciting to talk about, but it's property taxes and also any types of HOA, homeowner association fees, or even some metro tax districts. I've done whole complete separate videos all about this stuff. I know it might be a little bit boring for some of you, but I'm telling you, this is really important stuff to know about. And I definitely think if you haven't, you should watch a few other videos. I'll link one of them up above here so you can click that one and watch it after finishing this one. But when it comes to property taxes, Colorado is a little bit unique. In Denver, the average property tax annual rate is just over 0.5%. It's at 0.06%. So what that means is if you buy a $500,000 house, on average, you're looking to have an annual property tax bill paid that following year. You always pay your property taxes in arrears or after the fact. So in 2025, we're paying 2024 taxes, and typically it's about 0.6 or about 0.5%. So going back to my example, a $500,000 house at that rate, a 0.06% rate, or just for ease of numbers, we'll do a 0.5%. That's going to be $2,500. That's the average. But one of the most popular parts of Denver these days are a lot of the areas that have new build communities, new construction. And the one caveat to this is a lot of times these are the areas with the higher annual property tax rates. One of my favorite areas is down southwest of where I live in Littleton in an area called Sterling Ranch. It's at about 1.4%. So not quite, but close to 3 times what that average is. So instead of on a $500,000 house, having a $2,500 annual property tax bill, you might be looking at $7,000 or maybe even a bit higher. So very significant differences, especially for people that might not be used to that, coming from other states that might not even have property taxes. Now, when it comes to metro tax districts, if you're not that familiar, these are really also common in new construction areas, and that's because it's an additional tax, typically only for a short period of time, maybe 10 or 20 years, and it's to help pay for a lot of the infrastructure and just additional costs associated with building out a brand new area of town for people to live in. So it's paying for some of the roads and sidewalks and parks and all of that stuff that goes into building out and expanding the city. So these metro tax districts, they are typically temporary, but they are also something that catches a lot of people by surprise and they don't realize it until it's too late. So that's just a very important local tip for you, is to make sure when you're looking at real estate, you're not only looking at just the property tax, but also looking at what other potential monthly fees or annual fees you might need to be aware of, such as metro tax districts, and if you're in an HOA or a homeowner association. We could talk about HOAs all day long. I think there's some really good pros, but also a few cons to being in an area that has an HOA. I currently live in one in Grant Ranch, which is in Littleton, and I love having an HOA as long as it's a reasonable price per month that you pay to be in the HOA. And the reason I love it is it really keeps your neighbors accountable. You don't end up having a new neighbor moving in across the street that has a car out on their driveway on blocks, or maybe they haven't mowed their lawn in 2 months. You can avoid a lot of those uncomfortable interactions with your neighbors, or just, things that tend to, affect your property values and just make your home not nearly as desirable to be living in when you have neighbors that just aren't taking the same level of care that you are on the home. So with an HOA, you're really able to eliminate some of that and just ensure that everybody around you will have the same level of expectation for how they keep their home and the quality of the neighborhood that you're living in. All right, you guys, so hopefully you got a little bit of value out of those 3 harsh realities. Maybe you already knew about some of that stuff, maybe you didn't, but regardless, I know it's a good reminder for everyone just to know about some of these things that do catch some people by surprise, especially if they're moving to Denver from another part of the country or maybe another part of the world. So hope you guys got some value out of it. But before we go, down below, one last time, I'll leave you guys with this. I have a brand new homebuyer masterclass. It's free, it's online. I'm hosting them monthly with one of my best friends and one of the top lenders in the entire country. And we're doing this for you, for viewers, for anybody that's just wanting to get a little bit more actionable knowledge and tips on what it takes to succeed and win in today's real estate market in Denver, Colorado. I would love for you guys to attend the next one. Seats are limited, so I'll leave you guys with the link down below. Click that, sign up for the next one, and I look forward to seeing you on it and sharing more valuable tips and resources just like I do each week on brand new Living in Denver episodes on my Living in Denver YouTube channel. I'll see you guys next week. Until then, have a great day. See you then. Bye.